Okay, welcome everybody to tasting number 153 of the Saratoga Whiskey Club. We keep rocking and rolling here. It's still March. It's kind of crazy. I don't even remember how many tastings we've done this year already, but it's a lot. And but they've been all really great. And talk about opening our minds to new expressions. Tony walked in just now as expected.
Sorry.
Coming from Latham. No. It's all good, Tony.
We
We're waiting for you to get here. So tonight we are doing a special visit to Campbeltown, one of our favorite areas of Scotland. Used to be it used to be the whiskey capital of Scotland for many years. There were over 60 distilleries in Campbeltown at one point. Really 60, yeah. Yep. It was a true powerhouse location. And then that all kind of went bye-bye for a lot of different reasons. But there are now currently 3 distilleries in Campbeltown, which include Glen Scotia, Springbank, and Glengyle. There are 2 in the making right now that'll be open relatively soon. And there are plans for actually a bunch more. So I think before we know it, maybe in the next 10 years, there could be up to 10 distilleries in Campbeltown, which is a huge jump from where they are right now. But getting back to being that powerhouse location again. Really great area to visit, really cute fishing town, really the bottom part of a peninsula, the Kintyre Peninsula, really beautiful location. But and they make some fabulous whiskey from the 3 distilleries currently. And actually we're tasting from all 3 tonight, so that's kind of fun. Kilkerran comes from Glengyle, and that's our last whiskey of the night. But we are going to start with Glen Scotia, and before we jump into the Victoriana, which will be our first whiskey tonight, I am going to play a quick video on Glen Scotia. There's a really well made video with Ian McAllister, who's their master distiller, and as well as Betty Paskin, who's a really great whiskey writer, pretty well known in the whiskey world. But I am going to share my screen. We'll watch that, and then we will have the Victoriana, because there is another video on the Victoriana, which is actually a very special whiskey that won a lot of awards. And they have a video on Glen Scotia's website, actually with Ian McAllister and Betty Paskin again, talking about the Victoriana. So we'll first watch this video on the distillery and kind of get the sense of history, Campbeltown, Glen Scotia. And then we will jump right into the Victoriana. But let me find this here. There might be an ad or 2, so just keep that in mind. Desktop. See if I can do this here without causing too many challenges.
Free buzzer beater, upset, and Cinderella story.
Okay, let me turn on the closed captionings.
Here we are at the Scottish Distillery of the Year in the heart of Campbeltown. It's been a massive year for Glen Scotia. You have won.
Just give it a second. There might be a little buffer.
So many accolades. Scotland Distillery of the Year, best whiskey in the world for the 25-year-old, and best no-age statement for the Victoriana too. What an achievement, Ian.
Thank you, Becky. Yes, welcome. It's been a wonderful achievement. It's true testament to the team and the dedication and everything that's happened to the distillery over the last few years.
This award is huge for Glen Scotia, for the team here.
It really is beyond our wildest expectations. Something that we're all incredibly proud of. We're all humble, a humble team here. And when you bear in mind where Glen Scotia was a few years back, it was never in this position. So it's truly remarkable when you see the point we've reached now.
When you consider that Campbeltown was once the heart of whisky distilling in Scotland, and now we only have 3 distilleries here, for a Campbeltown distillery to win Distillery of the Year shines a light back on the town.
Absolutely. But now that Glen Scotia's found its confidence, it's up there with the
Oh.
best of them. For me, it doesn't get any better than this, to see the town.
I didn't download this, so.
It's pride for Glen Scotia, but it's pride for Campbeltown too.
Oops, shoot.
Yeah, whoever you are, whatever you do, then it's something you can wear with pride.
You've achieved so much, and I believe we have a very fitting dram to celebrate the Scottish Whisky Distillery of the Year.
Absolutely. Let's give it a try. It's a 22-year-old from 1999, bottled at 54%.
Now, 1999 was the
I thought they were going to talk
So it's
more
even
about
more
this story. All right, well,
plain.
forget that. All right, let me get back to. Okay, so let me just mention a couple of things about Glen Scotia. That was Ian McAllister. I thought they were going to show a few more videos of the distillery, but they were getting right into some whiskey, which is what we're going to do too. But you know, it's pretty amazing that they won Distillery of the Year a couple of years ago. Everybody talks about Springbank, and there's nothing wrong with Springbank. It's one of the best distilleries by far as well in Scotland, where everything is done right there on site by hand, and we'll see a little bit of that later. But Glen Scotia is this under the radar, incredible Campbeltown distillery that just doesn't get enough love, and they're finally getting the recognition that they deserve. I was in 2019 at Ardnamurchan with Holly, and we ran into Charles McLean, who's one of the whiskey writers, kind of famous Scotch writers. And, you know, we were telling him our schedule of our trip and that we were going to be down in Campbeltown. And he was like, you have to do Glen Scotia, you know, they're the hidden gem. And that was one of his favorite distilleries in all of Scotland. You know, everybody focuses on Springbank, but they just forget about Glen Scotia. So as we'll see with these first 4 whiskeys, and we've done a lot of other Glen Scotias throughout the years with the Whiskey Club, they are truly a really beautiful distillery. It was very hard to get these whiskeys into the shop. They've really struggled with distribution here in the United States and knowing which is the right distributor to use. You know, when you go with some of the larger distributors, sometimes you get lost in the conversation. You know, they're focusing on the bigger brands. So Glen Scotia was kind of one of those that was jumping around and pretty hard to figure out which was the right fit for them. And they're currently with a interesting smaller distributor, but we were able to you know, make a relationship with them and get cases of each of these 4 that we're starting with. Now we're down to like only 1 or 2 bottles left of each of these. So, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get any more. So if you do like any of these first 4, don't wait, is all I can tell you, because I'm not sure how much more we can get. We've had requests for the Victoriana for a long time, and we weren't able to get it until we were able to get these recently. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the Victoriana. There is a video I do want to play on that, just because it is such a special whiskey. I first tasted the Victoriana quite a while ago, pre-pandemic, and it was, you know, it definitely was my favorite of the core releases from Glen Scotia, and it is considered part of their core release, as well as the 15-year that we're drinking tonight. The other 2, the 12-year and the 11-year festival. Those are kind of more limited releases. Those aren't part of the core. But the first one and the fourth one tonight will be part of the core. But let me go ahead and share this video on the Victoriana, because it's really, I did watch this one, so I know what's on it. It does explain it well, why they called it the Victoriana, what it's comprised of. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's see here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. All right, hold on. How did I get there?
Good question. I don't know if they want it to look darker,
Okay, here we go.
like all the art days are.
Just bear with me with the buffering of these videos.
That's a good question. There's the other three over there.
Yeah, this is Victoriana, and it's not only one of my favourite whiskies, but it was also named the best no-age statement Scotch whisky at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition in 2022. Tell me all about it.
Victoriana symbolises the whole ethos of this whisky making region. 1817 right up until 1928, Campbeltown, the Victorian whisky capital of the world. This whisky pays homage to that wonderful time in Campbeltown.
Victoriana is really representative of the style of whisky that was made in Campbeltown during the Victorian period. But we're drinking this today. What can we expect?
It's going to be robust. It's going to have all the characteristics of the region. A confluence of flavours in there. It's a special rum.
What is it about Campbeltown that makes its whisky so unique?
The style from Campbeltown is one that has a certain twist to a certain uniqueness. Going back a few decades, there was up to 36 different distilleries here. So they've been cheap by jowl. That's a phenomenal amount of small progress. That gave Campbeltown its presence, its whisky power. When you look around Glen Scotia, the history's tangible. You can touch it, you know it's here. And I think that reflects in the liquid that comes out.
The award that Victoriana has won, Best No Age Statement Scotch Whisky, does go to show that even at a younger age, Glen Scotia's whisky is just delicious.
Most whiskies you're looking for an age is an 18, is an 15. The name Victoriana, the bottle in itself, that's just plays an age. Let's dig in. Look at that colour.
It's so rich and vibrant.
Heavily charming aspect, wonderful depth there. Look at the oils. It looks clean, it looks fresh. Love the colour there. Never tire of looking at the colour of Victoriana.
That nose is just stunning. Every time I come back to Victoriana, I get a different experience. It just feels like I'm uncovering something new every time. Yeah.
Just get through the layers. There's a caramelised sugar aspect. Of course, you get sweet puddings, the creme brulee. I always get that. Dark fruits, subtle hint of that smoky aspect. There's complexity. Everything in there really comes together so well. Let's try it. It's wonderful. Wonderful, sweet, jammy black currants, thick molasses, peat smoke oils. Leads on a spiciness. You get allspice, you get cloves.
Blackcurrant jam on really well done toast.
Yeah.
That's what I get from this. That beautiful smoke as well, but a lot of that comes from the heavily charred casks, which is actually quite unique to have that come through so beautifully.
The combination of that sherry, you get sherry sweetness, it really gives it a twist. The deep charring aspect brings everything together. You've got the bourbon right in the middle.
Just rich, layered, complex, full of fruit, lots of flavour.
Yeah.
That's delicious.
So did they say bourbon and sherry finished?
Yeah, so let's get to the contents of this whiskey. So he mentioned it's deep charred oak. So that's one of the things that you'll find with the Victoriana. But yeah, it is that combination of both the bourbon and the sherry notes that you're getting with that. It doesn't give anything in terms of age statement on this one. Let me just pull up my notes here. It's a delicious dram. It is 54.2%, so it's not a weak whiskey by any means. There's a lot of alcohol that comes through, but not a burn by any means. I mean, you're definitely getting that char note. If you're getting any spice or anything, that's mostly coming from the wood. But yeah, let me see. Yeah, they don't specifically get into the barrel types other than just the charred.
He mentioned in passing in that video sherry notes,
Yeah,
but he didn't really specify.
yeah, it's definitely I believe it's a combination of the two. Oh, I just need to forward something here. What do you guys think of that?
Delicious. Very good. Really well balanced. Nice.
Very nice.
Very tasty.
Have you all had this one before?
No.
No,
Yes.
2 hours ago, you said?
Two bottles.
Oh. That would have been funny if it was 2 hours ago.
It's
When
there,
it's sitting
but
there a
it's-
while.
It's yeah,
there.
it's not
It
a
sort of
forward,
develops slowly.
a forward,
No.
but I believe it's there.
No, I was saying previous versions of this.
I
thought
got
were
it
more
on the nose,
sherry.
but it had to sit in the glass uncovered for a while, and I grabbed the sherry. Doesn't have those vanilla qualities. I did get the cloves.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of maritime influence on this one. You're getting that salinity that comes through. You know, the brand tasting notes, like we heard, creme brulee, melted sugars, caramelized fruits, black oak, palate with roasted sugars, black currants and spice. Finish is cocoa, dark chocolate, and dark fruits. So that finish would definitely present the sherry kind of note that you would get, you
I just
know.
don't get a lot. I mean, it's delicious. I just.
It's there. It
Yeah,
starts.
first
It
smell, it
it doesn't
It's not
hit
a
you in
sherry
the
bottle
face.
by any stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, pick that one apart for a while.
Just trying to see if I can get like an exact.
Citrus or apple or.
It's
Yeah,
more
like that caramelized. say, like
maybe a
apple,
caramelized apple. That's what I'm thinking.
like there.
Yeah.
How much smoke are you guys getting from that?
Definitely the char.
Any?
Oh, just a little, just a little.
Hint the smoke.
Right.
That finish though goes forever.
Yeah.
Yes, finishes quickly.
So it's, here we go. So it's first matured in ex-bourbon for an undisclosed number of years before being split into two different finishing casks. 30% goes into ex Pedro Jimenez casks, while the other 70% moves to American oak with heavy char. So the sherry component's pretty small. It's just in the finishing and only 30% of the finishing.
It's got more.
So you're getting a tiny bit of that. It does come through, but it's not over present. That's probably why.
I wonder if that's part of what makes it drink like it's a lower ABV. You know, get rid of the burn.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, the more I nose it, the more I've had taste of it, the more chocolate notes I'm getting out of it. Kind of cocoa notes.
Definitely opens up.
And it's only $99.99. It's really a great deal. I think most places have it for over $100, but hopefully we can keep getting it, because this is definitely one that I would like to have on the shelf all the time, for sure. it's a special whiskey. So, all right. So I think we're good with the Victoriana. Everybody all right with that?
That's core release too, right?
Yeah, it's a
every year.
core release. Yeah. The question is, how much does this distributor get?
Right.
And then once people catch on, how much are we going to be able to get? So it's,
Well, if it makes whiskey advocates list, then it's gonna
That's all you'll
disappear.
find is
Yeah.
a 15 or a Victoriana. That's all you see. anyway.
well, I mean,
If you
it
see
won best
Yeah.
in the San Francisco spirits competition. So
It's got the Campbell.
that was just a little over a year ago. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Glen Scotia 11-year festival bottling. So every May, just before the festival on Isla begins, which is towards the end of May, is the Campbeltown festival. And it's only 2 days, so it's a short festival. It's become extremely popular. It's pretty much impossible to find accommodations anymore at the festival. People go every year and they keep their accommodations every year. They tell the hotel or whatever, like, I want this room for the festival for the next whenever, however many years. So it's pretty hard to go. Now the way to do it, if you still want to try and do it, and I would love to do it someday, is you got to either get a tent or a bicycle or an RV and find a place to camp out and enjoy the festival. But forget about lodging. It's pretty impossible. Not to say completely impossible, but Campbelltown's not a big town. And even though, with the popularity of the festival, there probably are some people there that are thinking they could make some money renting out their room. So there could be rooms had, but don't count on it. I guess is the main point I'm trying to get. It is a pretty great festival though, because they do celebrate both Glen Scotia, Campbeltown, and Glengyle. And I'm sure as these other distilleries come online, they're going to include those as well. So it should get bigger and even more fun. But every year there are releases from these distilleries for the festival. And you always have one from Glen Scotia now, and then Cadden Heads, which is part of the Springbank family, the independent baller. They release festival bottling now. I don't know. I know Springbank does something, but it's by lottery, and good luck ever getting a bottle of that. But Campbelltown, for whatever reason, or excuse me, Glen Scotia, for whatever reason, decided to do larger releases of their festival release, which is great for the rest of the world. It means you don't have to actually go to the festival to be able to get one of these bottles. But let's see. This is the 2023 festival release. So this would have been last May. This is a limited edition bottling. But when they say limited edition, I read that, oh shoot, it's not on my paper here. It was a lot of bottles. It was like, no, it wasn't a million, but it was up there. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because I was shocked by how many bottles it was. Here we go. Holly is not on yet. She will be getting on here soon. Okay. 24,000 bottles.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a lot of bottles. Not a lot when you're comparing to, regular releases from distilleries, but for a festival release, that's a lot. But when you think about it, you have Lafroig, you know, their Cairgius. You know, they released that during the festival, but that's also released worldwide. Ardbeg as well, they released their festival bottle worldwide. So those are releases that are at least 24,000 bottles too. So it's not like it's completely out of the norm that you have that. But then if you look at other smaller distilleries, or not smaller distilleries, but other distilleries, it could be 500 bottles or 2,000 bottles, you know, instead of 24,000. So quite different. But this one here is interesting because it's finished in white port. And you don't see white port used too often. I've only seen it a couple of times. But this is an 11-year-old lightly peated single malt that's finished for a year in white port.
So can you say something about what white port is? I don't know.
Oh shoot, I knew you were going to ask that. I can't, but I can look real quick. I'm not a white port guy, but let's see here what the. Yeah. So again, it's a fortified wine from the Douro region of Portugal. It's a blend of different white wine grape varieties. Two of the four noble grape varieties used in Madeira production as well.
There is a sweetness, there's a combination of sweet and kind of a dry astringency to it.
So it's made similarly to red port. Only distinction is a shorter maceration period for white port. Let's see here. Typical white port, golden color, aromas of honey and nut, low acidity, dry or extra dry. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can tell you. But it's not something you see too often in whiskey. Occasionally you see it, but mostly they're using the red port, you know, the juicy either ruby or tawny ports.
Right. It has some of the drying effect of port though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is peated.
Lightly peated. And most Glen Scotia is very lightly peated. It's definitely not going to knock you over with peat.
Lemon peat. I got lemon peat.
I get more peat from this than I did from the prior one.
Yeah, I agree.
I also get the port notes on the nose a little bit more than on the palate.
Yeah, this one's 54.7, so we're right in that same ABV. The other one was 54.2. So we're pretty much the same on alcohol. Definitely a little bit more peat.
Yeah.
You know, there are some Glen Scotia expressions that the peat is not noticeable at all, even though it could be there very lightly. I mean, the Victoriana was probably a good example of that, but I do believe there is a little bit of peat in that. It's not completely peat free, but so there were some tasting notes that I found online for this one. The nose, warming spice, stone fruit, almost like stewed white peach and cloves with a fresher lemongrass and a slight mineral element. Palate, molasses, caramel sweetness with more prune and fig notes with waxwood and sandalwood spice with a long fragrant finish.
I think it's long because it's dry. And like,
Yeah, both of these have had beautiful long finishes.
Agreed.
The notes here in person was that it's pretty dry and it drops off. But I do tend to agree with you, Rich, on that. I think it's still on my tongue for quite a while here. And The nose I really enjoy on this one.
Yeah, it did have a good nose. That was probably my favorite.
Definitely like a orchard fruit,
Yeah,
you know, like the pear kind of
That's
notes.
exactly what I got.
with a little peat.
Yeah, little peat.
Peat, no peat.
As weird as it sounds, I almost get like a peppermint on the palate.
Clove.
Clove, definitely.
I can see that.
Now I'm pretty sure. Let me look at what they've done port before for their festival releases, and I believe the year before.
The first one I would buy, I'm not sure about this
Well, definitely let them first.
I would agree with that. This one's got, that's why I wanted holly. It's got that, again, I said it,
It's medicinal, yeah.
Medicinal.
one. And actually now, and I had a little sip of water, I'm feeling the metallic.
Okay, so the 2022. Wait a minute here. Let me see.
It is definitely fun.
Oh no, it was 2018 was Ruby Port. That was really, really great. But then they did 2020, they did Ruby Port again. So they're really into port, different types of port at Glen Scotia. And then last year, was it last year or 21 was a Bordeaux. So they do play around a lot with wine and port. They've done a 12-month finish in PX before for their festival release. So a lot of different options from Glen Scotia. And that's kind of what this tasting is about too, right? I mean, all four of these are quite different in terms of maturation. So this one's pretty reasonable, $89.99. All of these are really reasonable. Oh, is it? You better buy it online.
I better buy it online.
Yeah, if you're. I can't run over to the register. Is that the last one?
There's two.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're okay. You should get it.
Victoriana or the port?
Victoriana.
You just put it next to
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I'll let you know if orders come through.
You gotta show up, you gotta be present, you gotta be in it to win it.
Yeah, I don't see any orders yet, so you're okay.
We're online, we're being recorded.
All right, so let's move on to the Amontillado.
I was waiting for you to say
It's an
it.
Edgar Allan Poe story.
Is it?
Cask of Amontillado. Like
The
all
only
our
underground
stories,
hole I know is the raven.
this guy takes an enemy down, tastes the Amontillado, and when he gets too drunk, he rolls him up alive.
Okay, so
Two stories.
this is unpeated malt, the 12-year. It's first matured in bourbon barrels,
Smell to it.
and then it's 12 months in Amontillado sherry. And this is what they call a seasonal release. So it's still not core, but it's going to change kind of every year. But
What's the ABV on this, Charles?
53.3. 12 years old.
Yeah, a lot of vanilla, toffee, oak.
And then when we talk about, let's see here. Let me give you some info.
Yeah, it's Spain. I think it's sort of like another.
So Amontillado, let's talk about Amontillado real quick here. It's a unique wine produced from The complete fermentation of the Palomino grape must.
Very interesting taste.
Let's see here. It's a very unique wine due to its dual aging process. First under the veil of flora, typical of Fino and Manzanilla, followed by a period in which the flora disappears and the wine is exposed to oxidation. Let's talk about notes here. So it's a variety of sherry. Obviously, we know it's sherry. It's darker than Fino, but lighter than Oloroso. Named after the Montilla municipality in Spain, Andalusia, Spain. Originated in the 18th century. Amontillado is used as a measure of color to label any style of sherry that lay between the categories of Fino and Oloroso. Let's see here. It begins as Fino to approximately 15.5% alcohol. But then it's fortified to approximately 17.5% alcohol. And let's see, what are some of the notes? So it's naturally dry. Sometimes sold lightly to medium sweetened.
Definitely true.
Let's see.
Some kind of spice.
Orange or Marianne?
Yeah, I get like
Citrus peel,
apricot,
like an orange peel.
yeah.
Definitely orange.
So the brand tasting notes on this one, a warm, nutty dram with a long lingering vanilla and rich, dry finish. The maritime nuances are interwoven both on the nose and the palate.
It is a rich-
So I actually haven't had this one yet.
This is also got a little dryness on the finish.
Mhm.
So it is nice.
Beautiful nose.
Yeah.
Definitely no peat on this one, you can tell.
I'll get more of that. On the nose.
Wow. That's interesting. It's not the, it definitely has a lot of sherry notes. There's no question about that, but it's not that bold Oloroso, even though there's a hint of it there. It's kind of like a lighter Oloroso. It's not as tart, I don't think, as an Oloroso can be sometimes. Definitely not as dark,
I
yeah.
mean, like even a taste from like that dark. fruit. It's not
But
as-
in the taste, in the end, I get oranges. I get
Mm.
citrus.
Orange peel, we all said that, yeah.
That's really good.
Lots of orange.
That's good.
Lingers on the palate, the more the orange comes out. I like this.
Yeah, these legs take forever. It's a-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite
It's amazing.
viscous. Even though with the lighter sherry notes, it's still thick in a weird, interesting way. It's tongue coating.
They've all been, I thought, is that?
The same was true on the festival.
Great mouth.
Yeah, I mean, Chad was just saying they've all been like that, and that's true for Glen Scotia. You know, they make a viscous spirit. And that's just a sign of how well they're making their whiskey too, you know. We all notice that the really good producers have this kind of mouth coating quality to them. You know, they're not just thin, disappearing whiskeys. These stick to your mouth, they make you chew. You know, we hear about the whiskey chew. There's definitely a little bit of chew going on with this.
Yeah, I love the mouthfeel.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm gonna bring the Victoriana back. Right. I'm not gonna bring it back. How you-
Yeah, it doesn't have the really, heavy dried fruits you sometimes get in, heavily sherried stuff. Olorosos or PX. This is quite good.
Yeah.
Doesn't finish as well as the others, I don't think. Just like the nose and the palate, I think is really strong.
It's a lighter finish.
Right.
It's there. It's just not as bold. the sherry is definitely more pronounced on this one than anything we've had. It's interesting. I mean, you don't find a lot of Amontillado whiskeys. I've only, I think, seen it a couple times. So between the first three, which I'm curious what everybody's like favorite is of the first three. Number three, okay, Amontillado. Just put up
I
your
like the Amontillado.
three,
Yeah, this one's mine too.
one. Okay, I see 1, 3, 1, 3. Okay. Oh, somebody's sticking the middle finger at me. All right. That's all good. Yeah. You must not like Glen Scotia. No, I'm just making that up. Nobody stuck the middle finger at me.
Well, it'll make you feel better.
All right, Larry, I can remove you from this broadcast. It's morning for me. I'm good to go here. So
Breakfast of champions.
yeah, exactly. Just give me some barley. Actually, we were at Mars Sanuki distillery down in very southern part of Japan, as far south as you can go. That was just last week, and they gave us as our snacks or palate cleanser, whatever you want to call it, both unpeated and peated malted barley in little cans. And so we would just chew on that, you know, in between whiskeys. It was great. It was perfect. It was talk about breakfast of champions. That's just
regular in Japan.
Get some peated barley and a little milk. You're good to go.
Just a pinch between your cheek and gum.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. I had a feeling that was going to be a good one. When the 4 bottles came in from Glen Scotia, the 4 different releases, that was the one that caught my eye the most. Just because, again, cash strength, different type of sherry, not something you see every day. I mean, I was excited about the Victoriana, and I've actually had that Glen Scotia festival bottle before, so I kind of knew what to expect with that. But this Amontillado is pretty good. Has anybody added water to any of these? You don't believe in water?
I did to the festival one, but I haven't done it to this one.
I did to the first 2.
Yeah. We got the drop.
I actually didn't see much change.
What's the batch number on the back of that one right there? On the back, it'll say a batch.
9. Thank you. What is their core line? I don't remember.
15.
They have there's another, I think there's a
Isn't there like 4 or 5
standard.
of them?
There's like a
Yeah.
double cask, I think. I think they have another no age.
Why do you look it up for me? Because every time I ask a question, you shit on it. So.
I'm not shitting on it. I thought your one question was great. You were asking what the port wine was.
We've got arguments going on here. We've got arguments going on
He
here.
just doesn't listen to us. He's focused on the people.
I'm gonna look up what their core line is. Hold on a second.
I was gonna do it.
You could look it up too.
Okay. I'm going Victoriana double cask 15.
There's
Final
4.
answer.
I thought there was.
Final answer. Every time I type in
there's
Glen
4.
Scotia,
Yeah,
it comes
so-
up with Glenville, Scotia.
Double cask. That's one of their famous releases. And the 15-year. The 15-year though is only been out since 2015 as a core. So there is a 12-year. Oh wait, that's a special one.
They said core 12,
Yeah, that's not a core.
25.
The 25, I believe, is core. 25 year.
$550.
There's an 18 year. There's the Victoriana, the 15, the double cask.
I thought there was one other.
There's a couple of different double casks.
That was like a reasonable, like.
There's a 10 year.
I think the double cask is like fairly cheap, like $65.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, double cask.
Yeah, double cask is the cheapest.
Yeah.
It's like $75.
Wait, there's a double cask. Oh, there's a double cask rum. Oh. Why do they call that their core? Really their core? Right? Double cask.
Uh-oh.
Looks like you got 10 that they have.
One of the Amontillados is gone, just FYI.
That's what I said. Core range.
Okay, let's move on to the 15 year. So this one's lower ABV. This one's only 46%, but I tried to like think about where to put this, and you know it didn't make sense to start with this, even though it is the lowest ABV. But maybe have some water before you drink this one. Try and clear your palate a little bit. Oh, look at there. Somebody's got the Glen Scotia 15. Good going, Dennis. Let's clear our palate though with this one, because we are going down in alcohol. So this
That's
one's
the barley.
What's that?
There's some smoke in this.
That's the peated barley.
That's the peated barley. There you go. So this 15 year uses first fill and refill American oak casks. So you have both new and used barrels for this one. 15 years. And this has been around since 2015, their core release.
It's very fruity and malty. There's some, it's a malty quality.
I got mine in like 2 weeks. I waited like 3 months.
Really?
Wow, that's quite different. I'm trying to understand the notes that I'm getting on this. It's quite different.
Why do you need this, and have you ever been arrested?
Turns out that the inspector, who I also used to work for.
What have you done?
So
Charles, is this a mixture of peated and unpeated barley, or don't they say?
it's not saying exactly. It's just saying that there's two different types of oak. Let me see if I can dig deeper here.
Certainly not strong peat.
June, 2 months.
It says unpeated.
Well, that would explain it.
Yeah, unpeated. Hints of vanilla oak, spicy aromatic fruits, including apricot and orange blossom. First fill bourbon, refill American oak. Let's see here. I do get a lot of that salinity on this one, kind of comes through the sea spray. I actually, on the finish, even though it's a lighter finish because of the lower ABV, I still get salt.
Oh yeah, lots of salt.
There's a lot of salt kind of just lingering on my mouth right now. It says here, with only a very short finish in Oloroso, the Glen Scotia 15-year-old lets all of those classic regional traits shine through. So there's a tiny bit of finishing and sherry on this one.
They're a little cryptic with their.
Oh yeah, pool water. Definitely. It's kind of a Holly wrote pool water quality. I mean,
Not chlorine, just like
no,
cool
yeah.
water.
right, right.
My
Like-
mouth feels like I've been eating potato chips.
Your mouth open, drink it. I close my eyes. I let my mouth open.
This has some of that plastic quality, like a
Yes,
Overmore. Yeah.
This is one that I feel for myself. It's that first sip was really tough, but it's getting better with each sip. It's you know, that first sip I was like, what is this? This is kind of weird.
Doesn't taste anything.
Yeah, it tasted it definitely tasted like pool water to start. But maybe the pool water you didn't want to swallow.
Some of the coastal whiskeys, when they're not peated though, can, even Old Pulteney can teeter on that, like,
Smells
I
better.
don't know. They can have their own little funk to them.
And some,
And salt, like salted talkie.
right,
Yeah,
caramel. And then when I taste it,
You're like, it's missing something.
I just get salt now.
No, there's more than salt.
I know, but I'm just thinking of that. I need to.
It is salty, I have to say. There is definitely the brininess to this one. But not I mean,
Vanilla fruit?
yeah,
There's some vanilla.
there's definitely some citrus notes.
Right,
There's like
right.
the
There's a
orange, like they
fruitiness.
said, orange blossom,
Yeah,
creamsicle.
yeah.
Luke says creamsicle. Yeah,
Not this Luke.
no, not Lucas.
I guess it just doesn't have the flavors compared to the other three.
Well, it's lighter. It's 46%.
Yeah.
It's actually older, so it's got a little bit more kind of maybe depth to it that you have to. This is a tough one, you know. It's coming after 3 cast
You should have
higher.
started.
Yeah, but I thought about starting with this, but it didn't make sense. So
I know, I'm thinking of
Um,
it too simple. Simplifying it too much.
this one's actually cheaper than any of them. Well, it's as cheap. It's only $89.99 for a 15-year-old single malt. That's pretty crazy price. You know, you'll see that maybe for a 12-year-old, a decent 12-year-old, but not a 15. So
They need to do that at 50% or something. It's too low. Maybe you can do it.
Holly says it's getting fruitier as she sips it. So, you know, this would be a good whiskey for not a newbie by any means, but somebody who is obviously anti-smoke. And maybe wanting, yeah, there you go. Maybe wanting, you know, something that's a little older, with some complexity to it. So it's growing on me.
I find it leaves a dryness in my mouth like a heavy tannin wine would. It's not objectionable, it's just really dry.
No, it's
And the finish is short. It just sort of, to me, it just sort of stops.
overwhelming compared to the other.
It's very light.
Mhm.
You know, it's not the bold what we've had up to this one.
Age and ABV. Right?
You know, in terms of the finish, it does drop, but it's still there lightly. It's just not as prominent. And I think for us, after having these 3, it's hard to get, like, I think a little bit, but I mean, you can definitely, you know, whenever you have a 46% or a 43%, or definitely a 40%, you can actually taste the water that's added, right? So for me, the finish is very watery, and that makes it that much harder to kind of get the notes, because it's kind of just it merges with your saliva and just kind of disappears, you know. It's because there's so much water in there. It's not as viscous, obviously, because they've added water to bring it down to 46. Be curious to know what the ABV was of the 15-year-old barrels that they've married together. But again, and I've done this quite a bit recently, if you go ahead and have a tasting where you're only tasting things that are 43 or 46% and not getting into that plus 50% range, they're beautiful tastings on their own. You know, you're used to that ABV. But when we've had these 54, 53 percenters, it makes this one look quite, you know, watery. However, if you have this by itself and it was your only whiskey of the night, it might be a whole different experience. I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right.
I'd also be curious, Charles. 15 years ago was light years ago when you're talking about the whiskey industry. It'd be interesting to ask Ian, the distillery manager, of if production, not in a negative way, but if production was different, because they've had a lot of ownership changes. And I mean, this could be a totally different distillate than what they've been making for the past 10 years, especially in Campbeltown. I mean,
right.
They weren't on the map 15 years ago.
And you know, that begs the question, how does Ian even go about selecting the casks for this? You know, like if he's trying to create a true Glen Scotia experience, you know, under his tutelage, right? Yeah, no, it's interesting. That's a good point. You know, you think about also the 25-year, which won Best Whiskey of the Year. How did that come about, right? That's definitely been made before Ian's time at the distillery. So it's interesting to kind of think about that for sure. All right. 8:04. All right, let's go ahead and watch. We're going to watch one more video. This is a little longer. If you want to dive into the Hazelburn, you can do that. That's okay. I think this is a really kind of good video to just understand Springbank. There is this kind of, you know, legendary following of Springbank that's made it nearly impossible to get bottles these days. Even as a shop, we can barely get anything into our store from Springbank. You know, occasionally we get an email, hey, we have one bottle of this available for you. You know, do you want it? Well, of course we want it. Don't even ask us. But it's just so funny how it's just one bottle of Springbank 10, you know, whereas 5 years, 10 years ago, you could probably get cases of Springbank 10. It's just become that difficult to get. But let me go ahead and share this video. Hopefully we don't have too many buffering issues on this one, but let's see.
This one, hands down, blows everything else.
Tony, what do you got for ABV on this one?
All right, hold on, guys. You talking Hazelburn already? All right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
55.8.
All right, so here we go.
It was established in 1828 on the site of Archibald Mitchell's illicit still. The distillery is now in the hands of Hedley G. Wright, Mitchell's great-great-grandson, the fifth generation of the Mitchell family to own and manage Springbank. Being based in Campbeltown, the once proclaimed whisky capital of the world, it is no surprise that many of the methods established by our forefathers are still applied in the distillery today. We use traditional production methods and are involved in each and every step of the whisky making process, meaning our whisky is the most handmade in Scotland.
Good.
So this is the steep. This is our basically start step one. Fill this up with our barley, which comes from these shoots down here. 1, 2, 3. We specifically fill it with different tonnage. It's 8 to 9 ton for 12 hours in water. and then we'll drain it for 12 hours. Then we steep it again for 14 in water, and then we then drain it for 4 hours.
What the heck?
You don't know that, Robert.
Why is there a commercial? Sorry, guys.
And after that, once it's steep, we then lay it on the floor. So this is the upstairs floor, so this is 9 ton, which is usually like again 10 tons because of the heat and the water outside. We then lay it out evenly for an even germination. But depending on season, if it's warm, we like it quite thin, but not too thin. And then again, if it's winter cold, we then lay it out thicker. The winter, we close our windows to keep the heat in. In the summer, we open them all up to air it. And if it's the temperatures get too hot, we have fans as well. But that's not really work with. We work with the natural air.
Basically, it's just before 6 o'clock. We've got the barley here that's been soaking. We're laying this all out so we can eventually trick the barley into what we call germination. So it thinks that it's actually ready to go. Five minutes in, man, this pile just doesn't seem to go away. So, go away.
Definitely. I'm shocked how much. Julia, you think they are
No, it's all hand done at Springbank.
That's right. Limited.
It's beautiful.
So
to
after
see
6
that.
days, shovel it all in the wheelbarrows or push it down our elevator. That then goes from here to the kiln.
Guys, early in the morning, 5:30, and we are starting the malting process. So if you can see, Buddy Dan over here is already getting to work and scooping all of the barley, malted barley, into in here, which is then getting pumped up onto a conveyor and into the kiln. So these guys are getting upset with me. I need to start getting to work. We need the gym, man. You guys, I know. It's a big day. There's 2 floors, by the way. There's this floor, and then there's a floor. Yeah, I'm actually asking him just to take a little break. You see what I mean? So I'm playing it smart with your hands. So this is where pretty much the magic happens, correct? So you guys saw the malted barley on the floor, went up through the chute, and this is where it ends up right here in what we call kiln.
When manual spread it evenly, malting it, it's not going to be dry on one side or it's not going to be wet.
Yeah.
Or dry and damp halfway.
That's where you guys are gonna light the fire and that the peat smoke.
It can go all the way from the fire,
Yeah.
upstairs,
It's going in, and you see all this floor here, there's basically a grate, so that smoke will come through and through all this barley, giving it that smoke. And obviously, this, you guys make different type of whiskey. I'm not gonna lie, guys, since 6 o'clock, and I don't know, I think it's been a couple hours now, and all I've done is basically shovel.
That's all we do.
And that's
And day shift, that's
seems to be all you do, right? Start the fire. You can see now that he's starting to mix the dry stuff. Obviously, the dry stuff's catching everything on fire, and then the moist stuff kind of sits on top, creating that smoky, the more peatier, smokier flavors, especially in whiskey. You could be doing this up to 48 hours, if not longer. Obviously, every distillery has their own process in doing that. But essentially, this is it. The more peat, the more smokier flavors that you want in your barley. You just do this for longer periods of time. just opened up the kiln. You guys saw we lit it yesterday about 11. It was on for what, about 6 hours. You guys come in the morning, check it, make sure it's dry. You'll do samples all around the kiln. Yeah. What you want to say? This is the only techno that Springbank uses. So I don't even know if we're allowed to show this. Another couple of samples just to get another one in.
What makes it so special though.
Well, you can start from this sheet here, on this belt, and down what's called the donkey. Down the chute to the head there, and then into the bin, and that's this one.
How many times do you do that?
No,
From the kiln.
it's every week, yeah.
It's under these bins, hold about approximately 20 times. This is the system we use.
Very sophisticated, by the way. Bin, full, empty.
We've got to determine how fast we feed the mill. We don't want to feed it too quick or we'll get a choke.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Drop it down with this low screw, which then we'll take into the mill room. So this is the continuation. The mill travels along here, drops down, it's puck up by buckets. It's transferred right up to the very top. And the malt runs down there. There's small magnets in the bottom which will catch any bits of metal in it. And it'll go straight into this thresher. Turn it, and any loose particles, what we call cummins, will go that way.
Yeah.
And any small stones will be caught in that. They'll drop into here. And when that gets to a certain weight, which we call a coop, it will drop down and then it'll feed the rollers. And then if we threw the rollers down, they'll come along in the grist form, straight back up along and into the grist bin.
Yeah.
Sitting there for half an hour.
This is the mash tun. Look at the old school. It's such
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's then known as lots, sugar lots, very sweet. It's in there once they get to the level, start pumping from here up through a power flow.
Yeah. It's just.
This is how we measure a lot.
Yeah. Talk to me about this. How long has this been in existence for? Years.
This is done it up.
Yeah.
There's no flavors.
Just like a float on a stick with a string. Other than they wrote it all on the wall, like 30 hours for this one.
That's Hazelburn's 30 hours.
Yeah.
Air, no peat.
Regulate the temperature there.
It's 2.6.
Drop in the yeast, yeah.
This is the last one that we.
How long has this been sitting for? 4 or 5 hours. So not really too much going on here in terms of kind of fermentation process going on. Now that is fermentation. Once fermentation's complete, this gets transferred over into this container here. The liquid from the washbacks is passed through Springbank's 3 copper stills, a low wine still, a spirit still, and the wash still, which unlike many distilleries is fired by a live flame. The spirit produced by this process is then transferred into the spirit safe, where the stillman monitors its progress.
The SRWV here at Springbank, the spirit strength is usually between 70 and 71% alcohol. We'll take using a Campbeltown water source from Crosshill Loch. We'll add the water in and reduce the spirit to 63.5. Filling head here, just got a sensor. And when the spirit hits the sensor, it'll cut out and liters are recorded in the meter here for customs and excise. And then from there, it goes to the warehouse for maturation. For the first floor for customs, you wait, you have a tear weight and a gross weight, shows the litres will match.
The filled casks are then transported to Springbank's dark, moist warehouse and left for a minimum of 3 years. The age at which a spirit legally becomes whiskey. The whiskey is matured for various time periods under the watchful eye of their distillery manager, and some are bottled especially for limited edition ranges. One in particular was bottled 50 years after it had been filled, giving it a truly unique character.
Depends on the size of the cask or the malt we're using. We either fill 1 or 2 barrels, and if required, reduce the whiskey down to the required strength. Once it's been reduced to the through into the filling heads for some of the guys to take the measure here to see whether it's a 70-cent layer or 75-cent layer, short strength, and from there it's on to the light to be sure that no bits of impurities in the whiskey. Go through the top of the machine. The label machines where the guys put on the front and the back labels on them. So you can see very, very hands on, very people oriented. All right. We got the packaging people, all the guys that do the packaging. They check the ball and make sure the labels are correct. Make sure they're properly. And they have the correct packaging from there. Present the correct packaging. We're very, very proud of 100% everything on site.
All right, I think we've seen enough. The only automation I saw there at the end was the tape being put on the box. Everything else is pretty much not automated at Springbank, which is actually one of the things that makes them truly special. You know, they've stuck to what they do, and they do it the same way, and they're not planning on expanding or anything like that. They're just you know, happy making great whiskey. Now what we're tasting right now is the Hazelburn 15 year. So Hazelburn, I don't know if you guys saw the sign when they were filling the kiln with the peat. Hazelburn is not peated. It's the only expression from Springbank that's not peated. It's 30 hours of air dried malting, so you're not getting any smoke on this one. This is 15 years in ex Oloroso, fully matured in Oloroso. So this is not finished in Oloroso. This is the full 15 years maturation. 9,000 bottles of this. This was bottled in September of 23, 55.8% ABV. These are pretty special bottlings. Anytime you get your hands on an aged Springbank or Hazelburn that's in Oloroso, or any kind of barrel for that matter, you're pretty lucky these days. So we were able to get, I think we got 1 or maybe 2 bottles of this. The other one we'll probably use in our charity raffle, just because it's one of those that people want, and we can raise some good money for it. But this one we decided to use for this tasting, which is wonderful. So we all get to taste it, because it's not too often that we get to have one of these. So I hope you guys enjoy this.
The first couple of sips, I was like, too much sherry, but now it's like,
No,
oh,
this
this
was
is
my
nice,
favorite
right?
one.
And the
Right,
first sip,
this
I was
one
like, too much, but I'm surprised it's
classic.
not more with 50 year old sherry.
Delicious.
It's,
It might be
it's
one of
great.
the best ones I've had. I mean,
I mean, if
I put this
I
at
rated
the top.
it
I
right away,
drank a lot of whiskey and a lot of sherry bombs.
but
This would be my top 10. I love this.
So Holly mentioned the dirtiest distillery in Scotland.
Drink a lot of whiskey.
When I was there in when was that? The first shoot. It's 20.
You gotta get the Latham.
I can't remember now. 2018, I think it was. Yeah, 2018. I went with Shalom,
wish people would come to my house.
and
That's what I wish too.
wait, no, I can't remember when the first time. Yeah, it was 20. I think it was 2018. But Oh, that's right. 2019 was with Holly.
You'll never leave.
It must have
Are you talking
been,
about when you were with?
no, it must have been 2018 when I first went, but we were told, this was the first time we went to the Artisan restaurant, which some of you will get the pleasure of visiting here in a couple of months, but they make so sometimes these distilleries make really incredible new make, which is the whiskey that comes right off the still, and you can drink it and you're like, wow, this tastes really, really good. Some distilleries really do really well with that. Springbank is known for making kind of a pretty nasty new make. It's not very tasty. If you look at the video when they showed the spirit safe, and they really went quickly through the stills and the spirit safe, unfortunately, because that's a really important part of what makes Springbank. But the spirit safes are like covered in this blue oxidized, like it looks horrible. It looks like toothpaste almost. And you're like, I'm gonna drink that. I mean, it's like corroding everything it touches, and it just looks nasty. And then when you taste the new make, which they do let you taste, it's not anything special. And there are a lot of people in Scotland that will say that their new make is pretty horrible, but however it works with the wood, and again, maturation and wood is over 50% of the flavor of the final product, right? Maybe 60-70%. Springbank knows how to work with wood, and they produce some incredible whiskey when that nasty new make sits in wood for a while. So it's interesting. There are probably distilleries that make really, really great new make that don't need to worry about wood so much, or maybe they're not as good as Springbank with maturation, and they can get away with their maturation, and the new make, makes up for it. But I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. Whenever I see pictures of that spirit safe, particularly, I just think of like, how it's just kind of nasty. But
it's like the fountains here.
Yeah, it's kind of like the fountains in the
Springs.
in the park here. All the different minerals and whatever that change colors, but it works with the wood, and whatever they're doing works really well, because they're one of the most popular whiskeys and hardest to get whiskeys now on the planet. So
why? What changed that made it over the last couple of years
so hard to get?
Right. Like what was the tipping point? Like
yeah.
What made it?
Well,
I mean, put you on the spot. I'm just like, I don't
no.
understand.
I mean, there wasn't like a moment where they won like some award or anything like that. It was, I think, truly a matter of them being found. It's like kind of this boom that we see in whiskey, whether it's bourbon or bourbon, once you find that distillery, and we have this young distillery, Ardnamurchan, that some of us have been to, they're one of those that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, who knows, they could be that one that's impossible to get too, right?
I got a bottle of Springbank 10 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't even think I opened it.
Yeah.
Maybe I opened it and had one.
I mean, the one that's really great, if you ever find in the store, would be the Springbank 12 cash strength. I mean, that is like,
holy ground.
Yeah, really good.
So just like 200 or 300,
but almost impossible to get. But back in just not too long ago, you could get that for $120.
Oh, nice.
So it's just like all these other brands that have taken off.
I think I paid maybe $79.
Now it's interesting with this one being 15 years fully matured in Oloroso. It's not over sherried. It's definitely sherry, but it's not like Abelauer sherry bomb by any means. It's definitely a kind of a even on the nose
So
isn't
balanced,
like
everything
full
from
crazy.
palate to the nose. This is very balanced. Great finish. Oh,
The 12 is really good.
Love it,
The
love
12 is
Yeah.
as good as this.
Yeah, and Holly just mentioned too, you know, they malt all of their own barley. They don't take in barley from other malting companies. Whereas you have Lefroy and you have Beaumont and you have all these other distilleries that do some floor malting, but then they get 60% or 80% or 95% from, you know, another malting company. So
We just saw it on that video. Good Lord.
The-
That
so
seems
they-
like it takes hours.
yeah, it takes hours and there's only so much floor space, right? So they can only make so much. So to get back to your point of why prices have gone out of, you know, proportion, it's because they only make what they can make.
Well, and they're Long Row, Springbank, and
Yeah.
Hazelburn.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
splitting their.
Yeah, and then they make the 3 different styles.
Oh, they do?
As
Well,
well.
I just meant like, but like. Oh, really? They gotta work off of that?
Yeah,
Floor?
that's heavy demand and not enough supply.
So that's why you hardly see any Hazelburn.
So if you have Springbank, if you've tasted Springbank, it's kind of a medium peat. It's not, you know, like super peated, but it's definitely peaty. It's not Lefroy peat or anything like that, or Ardbeg. It's kind of that medium, not Beaumont. It's a little bit more than Beaumont, but it's definitely not the crazy peat. But then you have Long Row. Long Row is their heavily peated expression, but even Long Row is not like, it's not a crazy medicinal Isla peat. It's still Campbeltown. It's got its own style. This is pretty good though. I love this one. This is really good.
I think this was my favorite.
But they talk about the Campbelltown funk, and it's trying to understand, I guess, figuring out what that really is. and
Yeah.
Compared to.
Well, I
other
mean,
scotches
I
you
think the funkiness, and you definitely get funkiness in Springbank. Maybe not so much with with Hazelburn. With this one, I mean, there's a little bit kind of behind it. It's a little hard to pick out with that Oloroso, but Springbank definitely has funk, and I think some of that plays to the fact that their new make tastes like what it does coming off the still. I mean, I don't know. It's just its own unique. The mash tun. I don't know if you guys saw in the video that old school mash tun with the turning wheels that they have there, and that mash tun is like been there forever. You know, who knows what kind of flavor that imparts, and then you have the old fermentation tanks. Who knows what kind of bacteria is hanging around there that's providing some kind of funk. You know, all of that plays a part of what makes Springbank. So yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know when it was. It was I think it was 2021. So 3 years ago now, we did a Springbank, we did a Campbeltown tasting, and it was with Tom Smith of the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, and he was kind enough to actually provide a special bottle of SMWS Springbank, a 27-year-old Springbank. That was quite the tasting. We had like 5 or 6 Springbanks in a row, all different cast types, and that was like, wow. I mean, looking back on that now, I mean, we can't do that. I mean, we just cannot do that. It's impossible unless we charged like $300 a person, and it was bottles we bought off auction, you know, for super expensive prices. But
No, it was Zoom.
okay, all right. So we're gonna move on to our last whiskey of the night here.
I remember that.
So the one distillery that we haven't talked about too much is Glengyle, and Glengyle is a part of the Springbank family.
This is that buttery.
Let me just pull up some information here. The way that Glengyle works, though, is that Oh, geez.
I do love the snows.
They're like a seasonal distillery. They don't actually operate year round. It's a distillery within the Springbank campus. They have their own stills. They make their own whiskey, but it's not a long period of time that they're distilling. Let me see here.
Why do they do that?
Charles, they're what you're calling one of the 3 distilleries that's still there in Campbeltown. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Production. Here we go.
20th anniversary this year.
Yeah, so they were introduced in 2004. So yeah, 20 years.
Short period, whether it's the same labor or one shuts down.
And all of the whiskey that's made by Glengyle is called Kilkerran. So yeah, okay. So Holly even mentions they needed a 3rd distillery to be called a whiskey region. I guess 2 distilleries isn't enough. So Glengyle came around. But Springbank opened Glengyle just to get on the map again, which again, that led Springbank and Glen Scotia to be recognized like they are today. But Kilkerran whiskeys are really great. There's no question about it. Let me just get a little bit of information here. So it was a distillery that was one of the original distilleries in Campbeltown. It was Glengyle. It did close down in 1925. So it was reborn again in 2004. They only have 1 wash still and 1 spirit still, so a little bit different than Springbank that has the 3 stills. Even though Springbank's not technically triple distillation, they're like 2.6 or something distillations. Let me see here if I can get any more information.
Hazelburn advertises as triple distillation.
Yeah, I mean, technically it is, but it's, if you're gonna really get deep down, it's not a full triple distillation.
Yeah, definitely.
So the 12-year Kilkerran is 70% bourbon, 30% sherry. We're having the Kilkerran heavily peated.
No. Sherry provides a nice.
And then let me give you some information on that.
Yeah, and this says 70% bourbon, 30% sherry.
I don't think this is the sherry one though. Is it?
I don't know. Let me just check real quick here.
They have sherry influence, but I don't know if the heavily peated has sherry.
I'd be surprised if it did. No, it does. It's really small.
I don't taste it.
I'm like, oh, vanilla.
Buttery, peaty.
Right, right.
Butter,
Yeah.
butterscotch.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different orchard, like
Left
pears,
field.
apples.
We hit a home run to right, and now we're going left field.
For this.
Yeah, this is.
Hey guys.
No, I love it. I'm not mad. It's just like.
You're mad, man. You're mad.
I'm not mad.
He
I don't like twins.
I ain't mad. I love it.
Blonde.
All right, so this is a non-age statement. I'm just trying to find like the barrel
I like both. Same.
information here.
I think he must have had a choice to start with this one and kind of finish with.
Oh, see, I'm this one. I like this one and I like the last one.
Yeah. You like the pea?
I normally don't. Yeah, I like this. It's like.
Okay, 90% ex-bourbon,
Okay.
10% sherry.
It does have some sherry.
Wow.
That surprises me.
This one is 59.2%. So up there in ABV. And it is non-age statement, so we don't really know how old.
Batch is different.
You can smell who made.
Because it says batch 9.
9.
Got them all except number 2. I mean number 2. We'll drink it together.
So quite peaty. Just just trying to find it. They say what the ppm is.
You know,
It was more
peated,
but then the heavily peated.
it's a balance.
This was. You could.
It's like you get a heavily peated Octomore and it doesn't blow you away, but it's there. This is very skillful use of.
Charles, when did you say that Kilkerran began operation again?
2004. And it wasn't until 2014 that they released their first whiskey.
Hazelburn. They have two extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't find anything on ppm. I'm not sure. Holly says sweet peat.
That's what I got, sweet pea.
Orchard. Buttery.
This is really good, I tell you, even if it's heavy.
You guys like it or?
Yeah.
Such
Yeah,
a,
it's very
a
good.
balanced, good, very skillful use of the peat. Even though it's heavy.
Definitely has that ashiness on the nose.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
like,
I
don't
put this
think that- I
last
don't
one up
think the
against a
peat-
lot of.
So sometimes for
I don't like peat.
I don't like peat because I think it's like a, you know, it
This one,
overwhelms.
yeah.
No, it just overwhelms, like the smoke overwhelms.
Have you ever had their 12 or 16 that's not advertised as peated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that similar?
It's not like this by any means. You know, this one is a higher ppm. I'm trying to remember.
Bob's got some shit. 12, the 16 has.
Well, there's more,
sherry,
there's
some-
more sherry in those, but is there any peat in those?
Like, there's a, I think a light smoke.
Light smoke, yeah, it's still there. This is just heavily peated, that's all. The 16 is a fairly new release. The 16 just came out like a few 5 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's more than our day, right?
When you think about it, they've only been open 20 years, so 16 is going to be pretty old for them.
But this doesn't slap you in the face like you know, like a Lagavulin or an Ardbeg or what it's quite nice.
Yeah.
I did like it.
Yeah, you definitely have those bourbon notes of citrus.
Yeah.
Sweetness comes through. I mean, 90% ex-bourbon. And it still lingers on the tongue, the sweetness. You get that. It's almost like a custardy sweetness.
This is my second best.
Yeah, this would be my number 2.
Like a vanilla custard.
Yeah.
Yep, it's my number 2. and
With a
number
little
1 was the Hazelburn.
Oh,
citrus
I like
in there.
Although
First one.
the Glen Scotia Victoriana, the
Yeah.
first one, that's a tie with the last one. It's my number 3.
I have one.
So
and
that's
one.
really, that's tied for second
Again,
place.
I like this.
Yeah,
Oh, this is beautiful. This is growing on me even more.
Yeah.
it's tied for
Very
second
good.
place, and then my favorite would be the Hazelburn.
Doing all right there, Tony? You like them all tonight.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to score.
Do you have this, Charles?
So we again only got a couple of bottles. We're using it in our raffle to raise money. I think we have actually put this one on our shelf at one point. We had a couple of Kilkerrans that we did put out earlier, not this recently, but like a year ago.
The problem with low ABV.
But we just don't get hardly any of it anymore. I mean, it's so we'd rather try and do something fun with it and raise some money with it at this point. So I'm just glad we get to taste it. This is one that if you're out in Saratoga at 9 Maple, they have it behind the bar and it's only like $10 a pour.
Wow.
So, you know, if you like this, that would be the place to go get it.
Wait, where'd you say?
9 Maple
I need
has.
to find a new bar because where I am, Doers is $10 a pour.
Where are you?
Come to my basement, I'll hook you up.
Doers. Oh my God.
So in terms of Glen Scotia and Springbank, Glengyle, I mean, is there a difference, like, dislike? I mean, obviously they're very different spirits, but I mean, does Glen Scotia hang with Springbank, or is Springbank still a whole nother level away? Oh, okay. Holly says Glen Scotia Port and Amontillado are her winners. Wow. All right. Well, there you go. We did have a bunch of people jump on the Amontillado, so that's a good thing.
Wait, did she say number 11, the 11 year?
Yeah.
I knew it, because that when I said, I was like, Holly's gonna love the 11 year. I knew it because she loves that funk.
Holly's got a type.
The port was the festival one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Holly loves the funk.
Was it?
I thought there was a salinity on the Glen Scotia that I didn't get as much in the Springbank.
Yeah, that's true. You don't get a ton of salinity with Springbanks. You get more funkiness than you do salinity.
I thought it was interesting that all of the Glen Scotia had salinity for me, but then these other two in the same region didn't really have much of that. It's just kind of interesting.
The Hazelburn and the Glen, and this was a tie.
Yeah. Now they are on different sides of the bay. I have no idea if that influences the maturation at all with the winds and the air.
Glen Scotia picks up all the wind, and there's none left for Springbank or something.
Well, no, it's not like they're
A
blocking.
sailor would tell you that could happen.
Yeah. And Springbank is more located within the town itself, like it's blocked by a lot of buildings. Glen Scotia's a little closer to the water. So, yeah, you never know.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's the midget of one shine.
This is a good.
Oh, Holly says Springbank has city pollution.
I don't really have a.
We're picking these as far as which were favorites and which weren't, but I gotta say the range was pretty narrow.
Yeah.
This was really wonderful.
Yeah, this is great tasting.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm not gonna
Like
take.
there wasn't like.
What was your best and worst?
You got a liter Pravada. You like the hazel.
All right, we're gonna wrap up. Going on an hour and 45 here.
Yeah.
They're getting a little loud here in at the table too. So when the natives get restless, I need to call it a day. So hope you guys enjoyed tonight. Tasting 153. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with Raj and Glass Revolution. Should be great. And I'll see you all very soon.
Thank you, Charles.
Happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter, everybody.
Yes, happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter.
All right, we'll see you guys. Good night.